What's up? We have a UI. So I got most of what you'll be seeing here done actually early last week. But been a busy week, so didn't get the chance to give an update. But so basically, game time. This is the game. I don't know. It's just a little game station for me and my friends to play chess and other games that we want to play. So basically, I've got my kind of all the main files here. But so this is main.py. So this is the core. This is like the entry point to our program. So obviously, Python 3 main.py is going to hit this right here. We're calling main, which initializes a root window. You'll note that I'm not actually storing this anywhere. I don't really need to, at least right now. As far as I'm thinking, I don't think I'm going to have to do anything like that. It feels a bit superfluous to wrap root window in main and then call main. We'll see. I might just do root window down here. But here's how it is. When we initialize that window, we're going to make the TK kind of root thing, name it, and then we call user settings. And so one thing that you'll see is right now I'm just calling this independent method, right? The set window size and center, which opens the user settings file, which I believe is over here. Nope. Is it the one? Yeah, it's just this one. And so user dimensions, this really probably needs to be called starting dimensions. And then this one could be called minimum dimensions, maximum dimensions, etc. But so these are just percentages of your screen size. And so you do a whole bunch of stuff basically just to take the screen, take those settings, and then apply them to the window. So you're setting that here. One of the things that I'm thinking about is, let's say I add some ability to control the color of the GameTime game station, and I want to do those things. What I'm thinking is having a load user settings method, which then would subsequently call helper methods that are inside of it, like set window size and center, these private methods. But this one, the self.load user settings, would actually read in all of the different user settings and then, populate them into as members of the root window. And then you can actually do all the setting of the settings from there. And so then I'll show kind of how this works in a minute. But so then we initialize Homescreen, which we import, and then we run the main loop. So that is when you're initializing root window, this is what's happening. So then Homescreen, there's not a lot there right now, but attached to the root window. Important to note that I'm passing the actual root window class and not just this self.root. There's a reason for that, which you'll see in a second. But so right now, all that's in home screen is a label says hi, a button to navigate to user settings, a button to navigate to game performance, and then the actual command methods that take you from one to the other. You'll note we destroy all of the widgets inside of home screen before we actually navigate to our different pages. There is frame dot grid forget, but for some reason, if you do grid forget, it's really bizarre. It seems as if like your window sort of freezes, or for some reason it just takes forever to actually populate the new thing. You'll note we pass if we want to navigate to user settings, we pass the root window, and then we also pass the home screen. And I think that will make sense in a moment. So here's user settings. I'll show you actually game perf because there's not a lot here yet. So we do game perf. We're passing in the root window. Here we are. We attach to the actual root thing, which is this, and then set it, into the root window. And then what we do is when we want to navigate back, so we have a nav home. When we want to navigate back, we can frame, grid, forget. For some reason, if you're in one of these other pages, grid forget works great, but for some reason on home screen, it doesn't work great. I haven't debugged or figured out why yet, but it doesn't. So what you do then is you grid forget, and then you actually you initialize the home screen again. This is a case of you're not going to need it, right? There's a part of me that feels like it could be problematic that I'm initializing a new home screen. If I'm navigating between these pages. My thinking is, well, what if there's a member of home screen, a future member that I need to make that needs to get persisted across jumps between pages? So if I go over to game perf, like for example, maybe down the line, I want to track how many times users go from pages that aren't home screen back to home screen, right? Like I just want to keep some running count of that. In this case, if I'm doing init, if I'm initializing the home screen every single time I nav back, that counter is going to be reinitialized at 1 every single time. I also don't know how tkinter actually manages the memory. And so, like, do I just have the old home screen floating out in memory somewhere, and if I nav back and forth a whole bunch, then is my memory footprint growing as I'm doing that? I don't know. One of the things I thought about is, well, okay, I'll import home screen and then I'll remake the contents. I might be able to just call content. Home screen, where is it at? Here we go. I might be able to call content like self.home.content now, which I think at that point you'd be able to like maintain this self.home. But anyways, that's that. So then user settings. This one's a little more involved. So we've passed down the root window, and in the root window we populated members from the user settings, right? And so when we want to actually change the user settings, we don't have to reopen that file and read it again. We have loaded all of the user settings as members into the root process. And so we set those as members of user settings, just basically so it's a little bit easier to deal with later. Show the contents off, and then you'll note I'm going to kind of like set them into little sections, and then save preferences. Literally this is kind of the same, this is sort of the same pattern that I'm imagining to do with the settings over here in root window, just in user settings, as we have some core method save preferences, and then there are kind of private member methods inside of those that are going to actually write those changes to the user settings.json file. One of the things that I think we don't want to like open close in these helper methods. That's going to probably be a like one-time thing. So I'm going to need to refactor this so that then like basically you have your preferences, you populate the new settings out here in save preferences, and then the methods, all they're doing is they're populating fields in your dictionary that ultimately get written as JSON in the outer save preferences. And one thing you'll note is that the handle dimensions calls root window set window size and center. And that's kind of the whole reason that instead of just passing the root window root, we're passing the root window itself. And so what that allows us to do is, and this is actually what it looks like. So game performance, you can back and forth. So then user settings. So we have, these are what the settings are. We can actually, there we go. These are the settings: user dimensions, min dimensions, max dimensions. And you'll see, this is what we see here. So if I set the starting dimensions to 50 and I hit save preferences, that gets updated, and then the file actually gets updated as well. Whereas, we jump up to 100, save preferences, beautiful. There are some choices that I have made in user settings. Where is it here? Yeah. Oh, I can't scroll because I used that. But so one of the things that's important to note is we hit save preferences. If I close this and I rerun it, those settings are maintained. Because the minimum is the same as the starting, I can't actually shrink my window anymore. It is locked into place. Same thing's true if I do this and I save my maximum as well. Now I just literally cannot change the size of my window. And so I do think the kind of 75, 50, 100 is a nice kind of default here, because then we can do with it what we want. And so that's that. You'll note that I'm making some opinionated choices right here, that basically, if the user does something funky where they set the max less than min, then max is going to equal min. Or they set starting as less than min, then we're going to make that min. If starting is bigger than max, we're going to make it max. So the moral is I'm basically biasing towards, if the user is doing something, and I could make the settings smarter, but like right now it feels like if we just have an opinion about it, then it's going to behave in some way that seems mostly reasonable. When I say smarter, what I mean is in this handle dimensions, we could do something instead where, like, basically raise an error to the user. If they set maxes as less than minimums, we could just populate a little red text: max has to be greater than min. Retry. And then not actually save. We could do that. To be honest, I just don't want to, I don't know. It's not a case of you're not going to need it. This is one where it's like, it's probably nice to give users that knowledge, as opposed to kind of silently making choices on their behalf if they're being kind of dumb. So anyways, that's, this is the state of it right now. But all in all, this is where we're at. And so obviously game performance doesn't have anything in it yet. Settings only has these. Obviously, as I'm making more settings, this will, this selection will grow. Game performance, there's no games yet. And so where we're at currently is basically like, all right, now let's make some games. And so the home screen is going to change. I'm not exactly sure where these buttons are going to go in this view. But what I am thinking is perhaps the buttons, and I don't know, the buttons might actually just become, the buttons might just actually become like menu, like navbar menu settings, perhaps. Maybe I even set up a global keybind or something so that like you can just hit a button, takes you to settings, and you can change things. Same deal with game performance, and then there'll just like be a back arrow up here in the left hand corner, something like that, maybe. So what I think is coming next is there might be like one more thing before actually implementing a game. And I think what that thing would be is a little segment here and a little drop down here. The segment over here would be active games. And so if I have a game with my buddy Storm and he's online, it would say chess, Storm, and then a little green bubble indicator that he's there and we can play. Versus I'm playing chess with Brandon. He's not actually active. He's not on. And so a little red indicator bubble. And if I click that, then that game will pop up, the live game. And honestly, even maybe the not live game, and then we just have some indicator up in the left or right-hand corner that's like, hey, this person's actually here, and your gameplay will work. Otherwise, come back later, effectively. And then over here on the right would be like make new game. And that might be like a scrollable area where it just has a button that says like chess, checkers, Connect 4, tanks. And then as new games get made, you can like scroll up and down them, pick a new game. And I think that's maybe the only other thing that will come before actually implementing the game itself. Basically, I just kind of want to have the logic in the home screen so that like it's ready to rock when the game is made, like that it's populating the right stuff into the home screen. So that's things as they sit right now. Updates to come. Peace.